Okay, let's make a website using the Ajax web controls in DotImage. All I have to do is go into Visual Studio, create a ASP.NET website any way I'd like, pick whatever language I want to use, and that will create a skeleton website with a default .aspx for me. The .image web controls are just like any of the built-in ASP.NET controls. They'll be in the toolbox, and we can drag them onto pages. They have properties just like any other control. And then we also provide both a client-side JavaScript API and a server-side API, as you'll see. I'll go into the page and just put in a table. We'll just give it a single row and 2 columns. This will just help us with layout. You can do whatever HTML you'd like to do here surrounding your controls. Once we have that, it'll be easier to drag on in the design pane. So I'll go over to there, and you'll see the table that I've put on. And if I just scroll up here, you'll see that we've automatically installed our controls into the toolbox. So you can drag on a thumbnail viewer into the leftmost cell. Now once I do that, that automatically puts all of the Italisoft assembly references that you need into your project, so that you're good to go without having to know what those are. But it's our basic .image image processing assemblies and our web control assemblies, what you need to get started. Then I'll drag over an image viewer into the rightmost cell. And when I click on each of these, the properties window lets me get to their properties. I'll click on both of them, set their height to be the same. And that sets both of their heights to 600 pixels. Then I'll go over and just on the thumbnail viewer, I'll set its width. And then in order to have the 2 controls communicate, we just set the viewer ID of the thumbnail viewer to the ID of the image viewer. And I can also set the width of the image viewer, and that's the basic layout that I'm happy with. If I double-click on the page, Visual Studio will automatically take me to the page load event handler. And this is where I would normally go and get whatever image I want to show up in these controls. In your project, you might here go to your repository, whether that be your database or out to a shared file system. I'm just going to go to a simple local file system and pick up an image from there. I have an image on my computer called doc2clean.tiff. And for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to take that from a repository directory and copy it into a cache directory. So the Italisoft controls require you to have a cache in your web server directories, and the location of that is stored in your web config. I'm going to pull that location out here. We have a special application key, app settings key, called Italisoft web controls _ cache, where we store that location. And I'm just going to grab that into a variable, and then I'm going to make up a file name to store in the cache, which I'll construct by taking the session ID and combining that with the name of the file. And this is just for demonstration purposes. You can use whatever mechanism you want to get to the image and store it somewhere convenient for you. I'm going to go into the web config to set up my cache here. So if you can see in my app settings area, I just have to add a key. And the name, as I said before, was Italisoft Web Controls _ cache. And I just give that the value to some directory that I'll put underneath my web server. So once I've added that key, I'll just go over to my project again and create that folder, Italicache. And now we'll go back to my code behind. And I'll just write the code to copy the file. And since I'm going to be using file operations, I just need to bring in system.io, and then I can do a file copy. And I'll copy the file from my a directory that I'm going to just keep my images in. It'll just be called images. And I'll just map that path so I can keep that underneath my web server as well. And I'll combine that with the name of the image, and then just map my URL path, which is my cache, plus my file name that I generated with the session ID. And then all I need to do is create this images subdirectory and put my TIFF into there. I'll just drag that over, and you'll see that show up here. And then once I've got my image in the proper location, I just have to tell each of the controls to open up the image. So I'll just copy that line and then set the image viewer to also open the same URL. And that's pretty much all I need to do in order to load and show images in our thumbnail and image viewer, and to have them be connected to each other. We'll run that in Visual Studio's built-in web server, and then I'll quickly just show you what we've got so far. So you'll see I can scroll the thumbs, I can select them. They'll automatically load the image into the image viewer. I can scroll and pan inside the image viewer. We're automatically getting our tile on demand inside of the image viewer, automatically getting our thumbnail on demand in the thumbnail viewer. And as I go around from image to image, you'll see that automatically show up there. And that's the end of this demo.